list of names. That's what I see. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Tara Short. I'm the owner and founder of Green Adventures Tours, and thank you so much for joining us tonight on our my presentation on our multi-sport tour in Iceland. But before we get to that, I want to just introduce who Green Adventures is, especially for those of you who are new to learning about our company, and yeah, just tell you a little bit about who we are. So in 2009, I started Green Adventures Tours primarily for student groups. And then we were working in Baja, Mexico and Alaska, leading trips. And the goal was to help science teachers bridge classroom concepts with real world experiences. And then in 2010, the Becoming an Outdoors Woman organization, which Rhonda, you had mentioned, who I had a connection with because I graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, where the International Bow and Bow was founded. And so Bow contacted me and said, Tara, would you like to do Bow in Baja? And I said, absolutely. And it's because of that first year in 2010, our first group of 12 women who came to Baja to learn marine biology and to live their dreams of being a marine biologist, pretty much. It's the reason why we have all these destinations. We go between 13 and 15 destinations. I take some off in some years, but wherever we're in North America, South America, Central America, we go all the way to Africa. And then of course we have Iceland, which is our only European destination at this time. But it's because of ladies like you who said, where are we going next, Tara? All these destinations were born. And when I created Green Adventures, I wanted to help people fall in love with wild places through extraordinary experiences. So I wanted ordinary people to feel like they can do extraordinary things, because I was the person who wanted to I wanted to be a marine biologist. I wanted to see the world, but I wasn't rich. I wasn't a scientist, and I wasn't sure that I always thought those are the people that could have these really amazing experiences. So when I created Green Adventures, I wanted to wow people with extraordinary experiences, get them asking questions, develop a sense of wonder, even in adults, and help them understand how they can protect wild places from their own backyard. And with Green Adventures, it starts with a dream. And just like you have a dream of going to Iceland, or have a dream of traveling, anywhere in the world, that's where it starts with me. And I'm actually drinking from the same coffee cup that's in this picture. It says on the inside, live the life you imagine. And since I was a little kid, I just imagined that I could go. I wanted to just be an explorer. And when I forget that dreams do come true, I could see a picture of like this with me and a sea lion as one of those first experiences that helped me really connect with wild animals, living my dream. So it starts with a dream, and we want to help your dreams come true. And we have long-standing relationships with partners of the destinations we travel. So I never want people to feel like we're just packaging tours and reselling them. We have purposely designed itineraries, pretty much designed for women 50 and older, and also for beginners. And we want to immerse people in wild and off beaten path places. Like I said, our trips are beginner focused. So unless it specifically says like you're climbing Kilimanjaro as an itinerary, that is not a beginner trip. But everything else is designed with beginner in mind. So every activity that's on this tour, we start from the basics, and we feel like where there's a will, there's a way. For anybody who's a healthy individual, if you want to walk on the glacier and you're healthy and you don't have any knee problems, we'll get you onto the glacier. So that's how we feel. So we have tour leaders and local guides in the places we visit who want to fulfill that desire of helping people explore wild places and step outside their comfort zone. We have itineraries that often we have itineraries that attract participants who are active, eco-centered, supportive, and respectful. And I say that because it is pure magic every time on our tours. We just, I say, if you read the itinerary and you resonate with what we have to offer, you should sign up for this tour. And then we like to support local conservation efforts through ecotourism and locally based operators. And it's different for each destination that we go to. So we're not for Iceland, we're working with local guides and local operators, which contributes to the local economy. But where we can too, we support renewable energy with our student groups, we do erosion mitigation efforts, and we do carbon offsets as well. Why do we do what we do? Because we are a passionate group of environmental educators and explorers who care about wild places and biodiversity. And we're inspired by each and every one of you. I know if Kelly were here, she's also becoming an outdoorsman instructor. And I was raised by the Bow people. We love helping people experience the outdoors. And we love that process that takes place where that you have you're learning and then you have your first. We've seen so many firsts for people, and we're inspired by each of you, and we genuinely love sharing these experiences with you. I was telling a group the other day that when COVID had happened 5 years ago and the world was shut down, I didn't want to get out of bed for a couple of days. And it wasn't because tours were canceled, it was because I didn't have a purpose anymore. I didn't have my people and my community. I feel the most alive when I'm with people like you. And so our promise is that you travel solo, but not alone. And what that means is that even if you come on this trip not knowing anybody, you will know your trip leader first. And we're your first adventure buddy. If any of you have emailed me, you'll see I write your first adventure buddy because I want you to know you have a friend on this tour. And we give you the support to prepare for your trip. So we have packing lists, entry requirements, suggestions for travel insurance. We have a WhatsApp chat that you can be part of. Once the group is confirmed, you can ask those questions about specific questions about the tour or whatever it is that you want to know right then and there. And then our team will be waiting for you at the hotel when you arrive and we're with you until departure day. If you have any illness or accident on site, we're going to help you with that so that you're not alone in our local guides. And that's also the reason why we're not just like some hiking club that just goes on a trip to another country. We have a operations base with our local partners. So if there's a problem, they can help us. And they know the right people to call. So that minimizes any delays if we need help. And then there's 24/7 on-site support. So if you get sick in the middle of the night or you just are feeling unsure about an activity, your tour leader is there to help you. So with that said, let's talk about the Women's Iceland South Coast and Multisport Tour. And I love Iceland. And anybody who knows me knows how much I love Iceland. I feel my most alive in this country. And that's why I have this picture here, because when I'm around these waterfalls and feeling the power of the cascades and the mist on my face, or going to sleep to the sound of like seabirds and horses out in the pasture, and just feeling connected to nature all the time. That's what Iceland is to me. And I have lots of favorite places in this world, and people are always like, what's your favorite? And I've got a few, but I can tell you Iceland is the place I love to be. And I try to be there as much as I can. Last year, I think I was there 6 weeks out of the year. I simply put my feet down there and feel connected and absolutely love it. And we have a lot of participants who keep coming back to Iceland on various tours. And and that's why we started creating all these different tours. So here's the multi-sport team. And as I mentioned before, we have at every one of our tours, we have a local guide and a Green Adventures trip leader. So the Green Adventures trip leader is your continuity between the United States and Iceland. And then your local guide is your connection to Iceland. If you've tried to pronounce any words in Icelandic, you'll see that they're pretty difficult to pronounce. And people of the United States tend to murder them. But when I talk about places, I find that it's better if a local guide is actually talking about them versus me. I'd rather you hear their accents. But Inga has been working with me for 2 summers now, and she is both a knitting designer, entrepreneur, farm rehabilitator. She's renovating a farm, and she is a guide of over 30 years with a background in ethnology. And she's also published books on a book on wild edibles, like that from foraging in Iceland's wild edibles. She loves to tell stories, and she loves to do dance parties in the parking lot. So she's a amazing guide who she'll be doing the August. She pretty much does all the tours except for Logavager and the June mindfulness tour. So she'll be with Kelly in August, she'll be with me in July, and then all those other trips I mentioned too. And then Kelly Van Lannen, who you got to meet briefly, is my very first tour leader that I brought into Green Adventures, and she is one of our experts. She's an environmental educator. She's a dive instructor, like a scuba diving instructor. She's got her wilderness first aid certification and a bachelor's in environmental education. And she's also very much into foraging and wild edibles too, and loves to talk about conservation. And she has been leading our Iceland trips in the winter, the multi-sport trips in the winter, but also many other tours with Green Adventures, from Baja to Trinidad and Tobago to Costa Rica and beyond. Then we have Emily Ben. So on the right side of your screen, you have Emily and Thora. So Emily is a Green Adventures tour leader. And remember when I told you in 2009 I started Green Adventures? Well, Emily was a teacher who was taking groups with a company that I had worked with in before Green Adventures was born. I was teaching marine science in the Bahamas. And Emily said, you know, Tara, if you started your own company, we'd follow you anywhere. And it's because of her that I used my last $1,000 and started Green Adventure Stores in 2009. And she was one of the first teachers to take a group of science students to Alaska. Now we're so lucky to have her as part of our family of Green Adventures tour leaders. She lives with her family in rural Wisconsin, just outside of Madison, and they have a little hobby farm. And Emily is a yoga instructor and mindfulness coach, and she is a wilderness first aid certified, and also has helped me design these mindfulness tours that are matched with our multi-sport tour. And Thora on the right is a superwoman. She's over 50. She's an ultra marathon runner, mountain guide, a certified mountain guide. She leads mountain treks all over the world, from Vietnam to Iceland. She is an overall inspirational person. She's got wonderful stories to tell people about her, and not just about Iceland, but you get to learn about her as a person. And she works with Emily on our multi-sport trip as a guide, and she's also our Logavager mountain guide too. Okay, so let's get into talking about our tour specifically. So I'm going to go over a little bit of geography on Iceland. We're going to compare the multi-sport tours. We're going to talk about the journey, how to sign up, and then give you a chance to do some questions and answers. So Iceland, where is it? It is a tiny island not tiny. It's about the size of Kentucky. So there's an island about the size of Kentucky that is between North America and Europe, and it's significant because you can go to 5 different places on this little island and feel like you're in 5 different planets, from geothermal areas that are rainbow colored rhyolite mountains and bubbling mud pools and geysers, to black sand beaches, to golden sand beaches, to vast volcanic deserts, to volcanoes that could be erupting, to big glaciers that are carving out landscapes to this day. So there's just so much here. But what's also really special about Iceland is where it's situated in the North Atlantic. It's actually on top of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. So there's a mountain range in that's the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. It's where seafloor spreading is taking place, pushing North America away from Europe. And Iceland is the top of this mountain range that can be seen above the water. And that's what makes it a really special place for scientists to study, because they can see seafloor spreading above the ocean. And Iceland is growing about 2 centimeters per year, thanks to 32 active volcanoes, which you could see here on some of them here on these drift zones. And there's also a hot spot that is underneath that's a mantle plume that moves. That Iceland kind of floats over, but right now that spot is underneath Iceland, and that's also contributing to this this volcanic geothermal energy that is helping to fuel the volcanoes and the drifting of these plates. So in Iceland, there's a place called Thingvellir National Park that you'll go to, and it's a place where you can walk through the fissures where there has been continental drift, and you can look across the valley and see Europe, and and you'll be on one side, that's North America. Those of you who are doing the mindfulness tour, we do a snorkeling experience in Thingvellir, and that is it's fresh water that's between the fissures, and we snorkel in that. So with the classic multi-sport tour, we will explore Thingvellir and learn about the history and see some of the trails topside. But you may have heard in the news about the Grindavik eruption, and occasionally you're going to hear, while you're even enrolled in this tour, that there's a volcanic eruption imminent in Iceland. There's always a potential for volcanic eruption that's in Iceland. There's 32 active volcanoes, but most of them have been sensationalized by reporting. So the Blue Lagoon is the only tourist activity that's been affected by the eruption near Grindavik. And then, of course, the town, the small fishing village, unfortunately, had to be evacuated, and some people are living there now. But the point is that the Iceland authorities are constantly monitoring land rise. They're always, it's like there's storm watch. So it's highly unlikely that a volcano is going to surprise anybody here. But then also it's highly unlikely that a volcano is going to disrupt air travel. I knock on all the wood that's around me, right? But the volcanic eruption that you're seeing is a fissure eruption. So it's where there's the increase in magma under the Earth's crust. It breaks and spreads apart, that seafloor spreading, right? And and then lava leaks over the top, oozes over the top, and then the pressure creates these cones. And so they're not huge explosions that throw ash into the air. They are it's one of the most gentle versions of a volcanic eruption. So my point is, this trip is on unless you hear from me. But there have been times when this volcanic eruption, if you can see behind me, I've got this same picture on my wall. I hiked to this volcanic eruption. This is one that's in the same area. It's on the same volcanic system, and they become tourist volcanoes. And the authorities create trails and monitor movement of tourists to walk to a volcano. This wasn't an easy hike. Not everybody can do it, but the point is that that these volcanoes can be something that draws people to Iceland, not just, it shouldn't scare them away. And then, of course, glaciers. So Iceland is a land of fire and ice, and glaciers so fire formed the land, and glaciers are carving out the land and transforming the landscape. And there are about 4 different glaciers, major glaciers in Iceland. We'll see 2 of them. We'll see the one down on the south coast, Mýrdalsjökull, and we'll also see Vatnajökull. And but the Vatnajökull glacier, this one over here on the right, is the biggest glacier in Iceland, and it's the second largest in Europe, and it covers about 10% of Iceland. But it's also a place where it's a ground zero for climate change. I've seen these glaciers changing every year that I'm there, and they are very much like endangered environments. So it's just like seeing polar bears or anything that is affected by climate change. If you want to see massive glaciers, you got to see them now. And when I first came to Iceland, I remember, you don't see this everywhere in Iceland, this view. This is a glacier coming down into a lagoon. You don't see it everywhere, but we will go to a location like this. And when I first came around the bend while I was driving and on a scouting trip to Iceland, I saw these huge glacier tongues coming down out of the valleys coming out of the mountains into the valleys. It was breathtaking. And so it's truly spectacular to see Vatnajökull Glacier in the southeast portion of Iceland, which, like I said, we will go. But the formation of the land, from the volcanic activity to the glaciers that eroded it and created these ancient coastlines, now you have beautiful waterfalls. This is Skogafoss waterfall, and there's always a rainbow there, and it's just such a powerful cascade to walk up to. And I can't get enough of it. If you're allergic to waterfalls and rainbows, Iceland isn't the place for you. I'm sorry. But then also you have these basalt columns and dramatic black sand beaches, high impact beaches. And over to the right, you see these stone like like shapes coming out of the water. Those have stories, and you'll learn as you travel through about trolls and about elves, the hidden folk, and how these stones that were once trolls at night got stuck in the daytime in the sunlight, and they turned to stone. And it's usually what the story usually is: the trolls are doing something mischievous, and they've been partying, they're stealing something, and then they get caught by the sunlight, and then they're stuck there forever. But this is Reynisfjara, Black Sand Beach. You'll also be taught here how to avoid or how to keep yourself safe, because although it looks very tranquil and serene, those waves to the right, they can produce sneaker waves, and there are accidents on this beach every year, believe it or not. So you have all this nature, but then you have this ancient and modern culture living like simultaneously. You have a culture that is, they have renewable energy, and they're focusing on reducing their carbon footprint. And you also have Viking settlement and a language that they can read that's over 1,000 years old. And you still have farms and textiles that were used to keep the country warm, like the sheep, the wool from the sheep, and the women who wove the wool. And that's still very much part of the culture today. And throughout this tour, you get a little bit of that. You get the nature tied in with the history of this really unique island, because there weren't people living. There were no indigenous people in Iceland. There were first Irish monks, and then the Vikings came in and took over, and then the Vikings brought their slaves, and they settled it. So this is the route that we'll take. And you fly to Reykjavik, you fly to Keflavik, which is out on the peninsula, and Reykjavik is the start of the tour. And we go north this is the Snaefellsnes Peninsula, Snaefells. So Snai means snow, Fels means mountain, and then peninsula, Snaefellsnes Peninsula. And so we go as far north as the Snaefellsnes Peninsula. And after you do this tour, I think you'll be shocked to know that there are people that fly into Reykjavik and have 3 days in Iceland, and they take a bus out to this peninsula all day by bus, in out bus, and then come back to Reykjavik. And then they do a whole day out to Jökulsárlón down south to the Glacier Lagoon and back again. They spend more time in a bus than they do experiencing nature. And I want you to, when I created this, I wanted you to be really immersed in nature. So we're going to see off the beaten path places in popular places, and we're going to do our best to avoid crowds, and make you feel like you're seeing Iceland like a local. And then you see there's still so much more of Iceland to cover. This little hand sticking out to the top, that's the West Fjords. And then you have North Iceland. So South Iceland, where Snaefellsnes Peninsula is like a microcosm of Iceland. It's got all of the features you'd find in the main island. But then we're going to do the south all the way to Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon, over here by Vatnajökull Glacier. And we do that over 7 days of travel, and that way you can have a good pace. So the classic multi-sport tour versus the mindfulness tour, without getting completely overwhelmed, it's the same tour minus these things here in yellow that are changed. So the classic multi-sport tour, it has Viking sushi boat tour, horseback riding, North Atlantic kayaking tour. We do nature spas. They go to the tomato farm, greenhouse. Similar points on the map as the other trip, but the difference is we do a 5-mile hike to a hot spring, which it's the Reykjadalur hike, and it's 2.5 miles in, 2.5 miles out. And there are people who on our tours, because we have a plan B for everything. If you're not into doing the 2 miles in, you're like, I just want to hike maybe 1 mile. You can. This hike is very easy. You can walk up the one, and you can go back and meet the guide back at the parking lot. There's a restaurant there. Or we've also done it before. We have a group of hikers who are like, yeah, we want to hike to the hot spring. It's a river. And then there's people who are like, yeah, I don't want to hike. So the guide will take them into town, and they go explore the greenhouses and learn more about geothermal. And they have a good time, a cultural time with Inga. And then we also have glacier trekking, which this glacier trekking, pretty much anybody can do. It's not hard. It's just that you just need to be able to stomp your feet. Because you're wearing crampons, and you want those ice, you want the crampons, the spikes, to get into the ice. That's what's going to be your grip. And then we do the Glacier Lagoon Zodiac boat tour. Okay, so that's what the classic multisport has. And we have a kind of a faster cadence. The mindfulness versus the classic multisport is, as you can see, we still do the Viking sushi boat tour, horseback riding, North Atlantic kayaking tour, nature spas, tomato farm. But we, instead of doing a lot of like hiking through Thingvellir, we do snorkeling in the Silfra Fissure. We have morning yoga and evening mindfulness activities. So our days may not have 2 full activities. They may just have 1.5 with the mindfulness component, because it's a slower, it's just got a slower pace. We do glacier lagoon kayaking instead of glacier trekking. Okay, so those are those side by side. Not too different. It just depends on if you wanted to have a little bit more time. There's a little bit more space for introspect and alone time in the mindfulness tour. And that's led by Emily. So let's talk about the journey. Getting to Iceland. It is one of the easiest places to get to. And there are so many direct flights on Icelandair from major cities in the United States. So O'Hare, Minneapolis, JFK, Newark, Seattle, Boston, and there are more being added all the time. So Icelandair is the most common, but I love to fly United, for example. And United has flights to Keflavik, which is, like I said, the airport that serves Reykjavik, the international one, and American as well. But American will partner, I think, with American will partner with Icelandair. But so you can, once the trip is confirmed, we send out detailed travel parameters and tell you like what time you should arrive and what time you should depart, and then all the any other details you need, and then some suggestions for airlines. Delta also flies to Keflavik. Airfare is approximately $850 to $1,100 USD round trip. After you start I know some of you are probably seeing right now, like maybe there's advertisements for Icelandair summer fares. They're going to stay that way for a while. It's not going to, this happens every year. They make these same announcements, but as you start to buy them and piece them together, the same price as any other fare will be, because you choose your seat, add your bags, all those things tend to add up, but this is the typical price range. And all you need to go to Iceland is a passport valid for 6 months and beyond your departure date. And as of now, there's no visa application required. I don't know if you've seen, but to travel to the UK now, you have to fill out, it's like an extra step. It's a visa, and I think it's $5 or something. It's because people from Europe, when they come to the United States, they have to do this. And now the United States is making it Europe. Or now Europe is making it so that we have to do that as well. But so far, this has not been announced for the Schengen area, so the European bloc that includes Iceland. But it would be a very straightforward process that will help you with if we end up needing to do that. How to get to from the airport to Reykjavik. Now, some people ask, why don't you include airport transfer? Because this is so easy. We used to have a bus, and you know what? 1 or 2 people would show up. The whole group would pay for a bus for 1 or 2 people to arrive on the actual start date or within the time frame. And people were coming in earlier, staying later, and it just wasn't very economical. The fly bus is $35, and you buy it online. You buy this ticket online. Again, these instructions are provided to you. When you walk off the plane, and you go out of the airport, you get on the fly bus, and the fly bus goes to Reykjavik. It's a 45-minute drive, and they do a transfer. It's a small building. It's not a major bus terminal. They'll give you a color-coded ticket and tell you that you need to get on the green bus or whatever bus it is. It goes to our hotel. And then see this picture where it says Reykjavik, and there's a picture of a church. Our hotel is right next to this church. This is the Helgrimskirkja Church, and it is one of the most iconic buildings on the Reykjavik landscape, or in Iceland in general. So you cannot get lost in Iceland. You just look up and you're like, oh, there's the Helgrimskirkja Church. And so our hotel is located there, and you walk. So the first day is just get there, drop your luggage off, go have breakfast, walk around, you just walk off your jet lag. And then by the time you're done with your lunch, you should be able to check into the hotel. And everything is within walking distance of the hotel. But I will be there, and I'll be monitoring WhatsApp chat, making sure that you have arrived. Same thing with Kelly. And then if for some reason your flight is delayed or something comes up, it happens. People come in day 1 and their flights are delayed and they miss day 1. Don't worry, you're not on your own. We will be in touch with you, and we'll start working through a plan to get you caught up to where we are. We're not just going to leave you and say, oh, sorry, we left Reykjavik. Remember, we're your first adventure buddies. We'll take care of you. So we travel around in a minibus, usually a Mercedes Sprinter, as you see here on the left, and they have really nice big windows for you to look out. And this is Barbara actually taking video of a glacier that's right out her window. But notice that we don't have a ton of luggage space, so we have a very generous luggage limitations. Please don't bring a bag that's more than 27 inches tall and no more than 40 pounds, because a lot of the places we stay, whether it be the small boutique hotels or guest houses, they don't have elevators. And so whatever you bring, you have to carry. And your guide and I are very happy to help carry luggage for you, but you don't need more than 40 pounds of stuff. We have a very detailed packing list, and you can wear clothes more than once. And you'll find that I always say that if the pants don't fit at home, they're not going to fit in Iceland. So only bring the stuff you know you're going to wear. And here are some of the things that the gear you would bring in Iceland. The weather here can change quite rapidly, and we're going to plan for rain and rejoice if we don't have to use our rain gear. And even if it does rain, that's okay, because I like Iceland a little moody. If it's hot and sunny all the time, it just takes away from what this cool coastal, like mystical place should look like. And do I not want the sun to come out? Absolutely, that's not true at all. I want to see sunshine, but I also love a little bit of misty rainy days. And we've never had rain during the summer that was so oppressive that we couldn't do any of our tours. But with that said, a good rain jacket and rain pants are required clothing. And every day someone will say on the tour, Tara, do we need our rain pants today? And I really do believe that's going to be on my tombstone. Do we need our rain pants? I've known for that is, and I will say, yes, always bring your rain pants. And trekking poles, we don't do a ton of trekking on this tour. We do nature walks, both on multisport and mindfulness, the classic multisport and mindfulness. But if you need extra balance, bring your trekking poles. You're walking on uneven terrain. We are not walking on just flat surfaces, sidewalks. Even the sidewalks in Europe can be, uneven. So bring your trekking poles if you want to have that extra balance. You can always just leave them in the bus if you don't use them. Our bus is ours for the whole time we're together. It's not like you have to keep schlepping those things in and out. And then also a good pair of hiking boots. Hiking boots or trail shoes. If you're someone who's a runner, if you're a trail runner and you've got good waterproof Gore-Tex like trail runners, you could get away with those on this tour. But if you're someone who is using the trekking poles, you're going to want hiking boots that have their ankle support to give you more balance. And then also when you do glacier trekking, so those of you on the classic multisport with a glacier trek, your hiking boots are needed because they put the crampons on those hiking boots. You could always rent a pair of boots from the glacier trekkers, you know what I mean, the glacier guides. If your shoes aren't sturdy enough for crampons. But what do I always bring? I always bring my rain gear. I always have trekking poles because I like them when we do the hike to the hot river. And then also I always bring my hiking boots because they're waterproof, they got great traction, and I like having that extra ankle support. When it comes to cameras, I don't recommend you bring these big heavy digital SRLs with lenses because they're just going to get wet and they're cumbersome to carry around. And what people really like are just taking pictures with their phones. That's the best way to take pictures. And then also we're not in places long enough for you to set up a tripod to really capture that shot of, like, say, waterfalls, for example. It's not a photography tour. It's more of a point and shoot, take iPhone pictures rather than setting up these big cameras. Okay, let's talk about the Snaefellsnes Peninsula. So specifically, here it is in green. And like I said, this peninsula is a microcosm of all of Iceland. So we can see pretty much everything here in one spot, but we're not going to do that. But it gets its name from this picture on the right. This is Snaefellsnes, and Jökull means glacier. And so it's a stratovolcano with a glacier on the top. And it's one of these mystical places. There's stories about, there's a troll that lives in there, and there's also stories about how aliens like come to this come to this mountain. And Jules Verne, his story, Journey to the Center of the Earth, this is the setting of that, Journey to the Center of the Earth. So there's lots of cool mythology that takes place in this area. And I love staying out here. We'll be out here for 2 nights, and we stay at a farmhouse, like a family farm. They've got cabins. They also built a new hotel on their farm, and this is where we do our horseback riding. But it's also, this is the view from the property. You can see Snaefellsnes at midnight, and I love looking at the sky. I'll get up sometimes at 11, 12, 1, 2, just because it's light for almost 19 hours during the summer, and I love seeing the colors change. And when we don't always, I always tell people, you're actually, when the clouds aren't covering this mountain peak, like, you are so lucky. Usually there's clouds over it, so it's just a moody, beautiful place. But look at the sheep in the foreground and the Icelandic horses, Icelandic horse here to the right. And this is a really fun place for us to get an introduction to the geology. We explore Saxhole crater. We walk up. There's, like, if you can see on the bottom left-hand picture, there's it looks like a stripe going up the side of this crater. Those are steps, and we go up to the top of the crater, and we can see sister craters all around. And you can see the lava field off in the distance. And then Kirkjufell Mountain, which is the most photographed mountain in all of Iceland. And those Game of Thrones fans have seen this in Game of Thrones, covered in snow. It means Church Mountain. And you have Búðir Beach, which is over here to the right. It's known for its black church, but it's also what many people don't walk down to the beach and see this golden beach, and we go looking for seals, or just enjoying the beautiful ocean right there. We do a couple of activities like that we require like third-party experiences. So Viking sushi. So we'll take a boat into Breda Fjord, which is it means wide bay. And that's where we'll go out and look for puffins and other seabirds and learn about some of the introduction to the history of Viking outlaws like Leif Erikson, like Eric the Red, and some history of the area. And then they drop a trawl at the back of the boat and pick up invertebrates, and they bring it up to the boat and drop it out. And then there's fresh scallops on the back of the boat and crabs. We usually just take pictures of crabs and sea stars and throw them back in the ocean, but they crack open the scallops, and you can eat fresh scallops with chopsticks and soy sauce. They serve wine on board. It's not a full lunch, but it's a nice experience to do. We also do horseback riding on the Snaefellsnes Peninsula. The farm I showed you is just maybe a mile away from the ocean. And so we take the horses out to the shoreline, and those who are experienced horse riders can gallop on the beach. Those who are new to horseback riding will walk their horses with a guide. And so that's what I like about the horseback riding, is that it doesn't feel like a touristy experience where you just like put in a line and walk head to butt. It's the family will match you with the horse and match you with your experience. And if you are experienced riders, you can do more. And then we do hiking. And one of my favorite hikes is it's just a 1.5 mile walk over here on the right. It's Arnastapi to Helnar, and we walk along this footpath that's an ancient lava field, and you can look at the rock formations and the seabirds, and there's basalt columns. It's just spectacular for just a 1.5 mile walk. So then we'll leave. So we spend 2 nights in the Snaefellsnes Peninsula, and we'll start heading south. And this is what's called the Golden Circle. So when you hear your friends who go to Iceland say, "Oh, I went to Iceland. We did the Golden Circle, and then we flew home." They didn't do Iceland. They did just the Golden Circle, right there. So we're going to do, but we can't miss it. Even though it's a more popular place, we still need to see it because there's a lot of iconic stops and history that can be found here. So you see the green box here. This is the Golden Circle. But on the way to the Golden Circle, we stop at one of my favorite nature spas called Kramsvik. And it's an old, like, World War II barrack that's been turned into this spa, where you have these pools out that are like all these different pools that are like they're manicured. So they set them up so they look like little hot tubs. There's hot water, hot spring water being pumped in, and cold ocean water cooling that. So you've got salt water that you're sitting in that's hot. And they also have a swim up bar. And a really nice changing area and showers there. And I find it so peaceful. So see, there are opportunities for reflection and mindfulness on both trips. And this is this is floating in one of the pools right down by the ocean. And you can see off to the right that there's someone actually walking into the ocean. On this day, it was warm enough. Well, even in the winter, we go swimming in the ocean. But on this day, the water it felt so good on this warm day. There's probably 75, 80 degrees with the sun. And they have paddle boards there too. So we were able to take paddle boards out and paddle around that calm bay. But it's all based on conditions, because Iceland can be really windy also. So if we get there and we have a calm day like this, you can take advantage of other opportunities around, that the property has to offer. So Snaefellsnes National Park, as I mentioned in the introduction, this is where we have a chance to walk through the fissures and snorkel in the fissures. But this is the site of the first parliament in Iceland. In 930, the Viking chieftains came from all parts of Iceland to gather here, and they set up their democracy. And they talked about their laws, and that became their parliament. So every year they would come to this area. It had great acoustics, it had plenty of water, it was plenty of grass for grazing their horses and their sheep. So it was like a social place. And so it has a significant historical component that is why we should go there. And we'll talk about, we'll walk around and see some of those sites within the park that have historical significance and history. And then also it is a World Heritage Site, because it's a place where, like, what you can't see here, if you were to pan the camera, there's a huge lake called Snaefellsnes Lake. It's the largest freshwater lake in Iceland. And there are other species of trout and char in there that have been isolated from going back out into the ocean, and they've become their own species. So this place is a place where there's migratory birds and speciation that can't be found anywhere. And so it's protected. Also part of the Golden Circle is Gullfoss Waterfall and Geyser. Now we tend to break this up over 2 days because this is a lot, right? So after we do Thingvellir, we'd spend the night. Then the next day we go see Gullfoss Waterfall, which is Iceland's first act of conservation. A teenage girl protected it from becoming a hydropower plant. And also on the right, we have Geyser, which is actually, this is Strokur, but Geyser is the geyser that all geysers were named after, found in this area. But this is its cousin Strokur, and it goes off like every 5 minutes. And then there's also these it's a hot springs basin. So there's just like, if you've been to Yellowstone, you can, you could see like the hot springs that have different colors, like blue or bubbling fumaroles, and there's a rhyolite mountain behind for those who want to walk up and get an overlook. So lots to do just in the Gullfoss Geyser area. And what we do stop over at the tomato farm and greenhouse restaurant, and this is a place where we can we see geothermal energy in action. So we have it's a family farm. It started very small, but now it's very big. But they grow these tomato plants using the fresh water from Iceland's pure water. They import bees, and they have like bio warfare. Like there are nymphs inside there that fight off bad nymphs, and they produce, I think, 20% of Iceland's tomatoes here. And we have after we get a tour and learn about the process, we then will have all you can eat tomato soup, and you can buy other tomato products there as well. So now we're moving to the south coast. So we're moving west to east. I call it where you see where it says where unicorns live, and that's because this is one of the most magical spots in Iceland. Towering waterfalls, rolling green hills, rainbows, glaciers glistening in the sun, diamonds washing up on the beach. I mean, if there was something of fairy tales, this is the place. And so this is where we're going to see most of our waterfalls. That was Skogafoss I showed you before. This is Seljansfoss. This is a waterfall you can actually walk behind and get a 360-degree view. There's a waterfall down the way that used to be hidden. A lot of people know about it now, but we'll go in there and you can just see that, see it coming down from the ceiling. We'll stop at little towns like Vik and places like Reynisfjara, where the basalt columns are, and Deholae, which is where the puffins are. So these are all stops along the way that have different order based on our timing. So our trips are 90% planned with 10% spontaneity. And that's we want to have some adventure in there too, because that's when the best stories happen, right? Fjallsarlon where you have glaciers, you have glacier lagoons. So these are glaciers that are coming out. This is Vatnajökull Glacier. I showed you the second largest in Europe and the first largest in Iceland. Coming down, and where it melted, it dropped its moraine. So it's dropped rocks in front of it, creating a pool, and the water in front eroded the terminus of the glacier, and then eventually erodes the glacier back further and further, and the water builds up, and then you get these lagoons. So this is a glacier lagoon called Fjallsarlon, and it's an ice river that's coming down. And I don't have a picture in here of this, but actually I'll show you this. This is Jökulsárlón. It's a sister lagoon just a little ways down the way, but there are big icebergs that can be found in both of these lagoons. So one will take a Zodiac boat tour in, the other will walk along the shore. If you're doing the mindfulness trip, you're doing a kayaking trip in instead of a Zodiac boat ride, you're kayaking in Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon. But this is really neat to be able to see these glaciers, these icebergs, because what you see on top is just either 10 to 20%, depends on if it's salt water or fresh water that these are sitting in. This is a brackish water. It's fresh water come from the glacier, but it's connected to the ocean. And that's where we go out to, it's called Diamond Beach. And it's got its name because these Berkey bits wash up on the black beach and they shimmer and they look like diamonds. And you can, even if it's safe to do so, like not rocking in the ocean, like the one here on the right, I'm sitting on a Berkey bit that's come down the river, and then tide brought it to sit on the shore, and you can sit on it and take pictures. And I like to stick my hand in the holes and see how it distorts the images of my, just distorts images. It's just, remember what I told you, one of my missions is to wow and wonder. Play is wonder. I just like to play, and we encourage you all to play too. Go explore and just see it. Put your arm in an iceberg and watch it like the optical illusion. And then we do go hiking on a glacier on the classic multi-sport tour. This is Solheimajökull. And on Solheimajökull, that means a sun home glacier. And we put on crampons and we walk onto a glacier, and your glacier guide is going to tell you about different features of the glacier, from moulins to how those black little peaks were formed, to how those holes were formed. And also on the bottom right here, that's some of the scientific studies are being done, because the glaciers are thinning. In addition to receding, they're thinning. So on this hike, our glacier guide pointed that out to us. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're working our way back. Okay, so we went all the way to the Glacier Lagoon, Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon, and then that's as far east as we'll go, and then we start making our way back, and we stop at a variety of places. So it's not a complete straight drive. We stop at different places along the way, like some of the things I already mentioned that are part of the spontaneous stops. But we will spend the night down here near Stokeseri in Selfoss before our final night to go back to Reykjavik. So this would be night 7 here. And so then in Stokeseri, we go sea kayaking, and look at how the sea kayaking is. It starts off in a flooded grassland. Remember the waterfall I told you, the Gullfoss waterfall, that was the first act of conservation earlier in the slides? Well, that river, the White River, goes out into the ocean, and it floods this grassland, and it creates the kayaking trip goes through this grassland. Sometimes horses will be along there grazing, but it eventually goes out into the North Atlantic. And if you look to the top right, one of the participants is on glass, calm water, floating. And this is typically how it is. But if for some reason there's a lot of wind, we've only had this trip canceled once because of wind, and we did an alternative, which was we went to a lava tube, a lava cave. But if this trip is on, but it's windy, the guides are with us, and they can always tow. So they can attach a rope to somebody who is feeling like they might be a little tired or want some assistance. And we also have double kayaks and singles. So we're happy, and your trip leader and your trip leader and your guides are willing to share kayaks with you, and then also your travel buddies can kayak with you too. But what I love about being out there is also that you look for seals that are sleeping on the kelp beds, and we paddle like looking down. It's crystal clear, and you can see the leaves of the kelp up at the surface. And then for the classic multi-port trip, this is the Reykja Dalar hot spring hike that I mentioned earlier. It's a 5-mile round trip, 2.5 miles in, 2.5 miles up. And we hike along this, the hardest part is the first 30 minutes. You walk up, I think it's like 1,500 feet, but it's steep, but no drop-offs or anything. It's just, you have to walk slowly. And then it eventually levels out, and you will get to this river, and this warm river it's heated up by the geothermal energy. We will hang out in the river for a little bit before walking back out again. But again, if it's not something you want to do, or you decide later on, middle of your trip, you're just like, I'm just pretty tired. Remember, I told you there's always a plan B, and we'll have alternate activities for you. And then we end up coming back to Reykjavik, and we'll have our final night there. And then in the morning, before you head off to the airport, we stop at the Sky Lagoon. We do the 7 steps ritual. Now, if anybody was looking at the itinerary in the past, we used to do Blue Lagoon, but the volcano has become kind of a nuisance. And it's also, we don't know when that volcano is going to have another eruption, if there's going to be another fissure erupt in the area. And I don't think it's safe to have groups out there. Is Blue Lagoon still open? Yes. Does Blue Lagoon close on a whim? Yes, it does. And so I would rather us go to the Sky Lagoon, which is near Reykjavik, and it's a wonderful experience. There's an infinity pool. There's also a swim up bar, and they have health benefits too. You go through the 7 steps ritual where you walk in this building. They give you these crowberry juice, which is like a plant that's growing in the moss out in the countryside. There's a cold. You go through these different alternating hot cold experiences. So there's a cold plunge with the hot water. There's a dry sauna, which overlooks the bay. It's super beautiful. And then inside too, in the infinity pool, there's different water features. So you can get a massage, like with this waterfall here on the right. And then they have really nice changing rooms, showers, and they also have blow dryers and lotion. So you could be all refreshed before going to the airport. I do have to say that the bathing culture in Iceland is that everyone must shower naked. So every place that we're going, just trying to think, is there any place that doesn't have private changing rooms? The Sky Lagoon and the Kramsvik do have private changing rooms. But if you decide you want to go to a public pool, for example, which is a really great cultural experience, your first day in Reykjavik, expect it to be like high school, where you walk in, there's a communal shower in the women's locker room, and it's expected that you shower without a swimsuit. That's if the best way to go unnoticed naked is to be naked. If you put a swimsuit on, that's when you're going to find Icelandic women saying you need to shower without your swimsuit. They don't use chlorine in their pools, and they want to keep it clean for everybody. So so how to sign up. If you're still with me on this, you can go to greenadventures.com. There's a section for women's tours. You click on women's tours, and you'll find the multi-sport trips listed there. Okay, I think I kept it pretty close to 7 o'clock. That's really awesome. I'd love to take a moment to go over any questions people have. Shauna, I guess I could start with the chat.
There was one question about crampons. I
Sure.
don't know if Leslie asked it. I don't know if you wanted to.
Yes, I see it now.
Okay.
Yeah, so do you need crampons? We provide them. You don't have to bring them. The glacier guides provide you with crampons for hiking on the glacier. So you don't need them. And let's see. Oh, I think you provided, you wrote that, Shauna. Good. And then also, can you pay
Yeah.
more than the minimum each month? Sure. Yeah, you can make partial payments and pay more. And you can also take donations. You can share your page and you can ask, like, we also have gift cards on our website, but you can, if someone says, I'd love to get you a birthday present, what can I get you? You could share them your Iceland trip link and they can make a donation to your trip, that's something. Uh, so are there concerns about the crevasses on the glacier? Not if you stay with your glacier guide. They'll give you very clear instructions about walking in a straight line, but they're not going to take you on a part of the glacier that is known to be unstable. They want to make it as user-friendly as possible. Okay, so but they'll tell you, I want you to stay in a straight line because this section, like maybe there's a lip that goes over, you don't want to walk on that thin ice, right? But we haven't lost anybody in a crevasse. Are there ticks and mosquitoes are concerned? That's a great question. There are no mosquitoes in Iceland, but there's something called a midge. And the midges are becoming more of a problem. And this is, so I just within the last year, I put like on the packing list, it has a small bottle of bug spray. I can tell you, I have never, ever, ever used bug spray in Iceland, ever, even when there are midges. But I think we did add on the I think we did add on the packing list, or if not, I need to put it on there. A head net, and like a $2 head net that you could get for like for mosquitoes or flies. Because we did have an issue last year in August. We were horseback riding and we couldn't go down to the beach because the beach ride is tide dependent. Okay, so sometimes we just miss the tide. We just can't do that. So we ride in the lava fields behind, and there wasn't any wind. And the midges, although they weren't biting, were annoying. And we were like, we need to add that to the packing list. So this is going to be twofold. I'm making sure that the head net is added, head net to packing list. But I mean, in how many years have I been going there? It was one time since 2016 I needed a head net. But I try to give you as much information to make your own decisions. It's kind of like, like I know you survived your whole lives without me, but I just want to help you as much as I possibly can. There are no predatory animals. There's nothing. That's like Iceland is. That's why one of the reasons I love Iceland is because it's like Alaska without the things that can kill you. You can like walk freely. You don't have to worry. I mean, yeah, there's a volcano. Maybe I could fall in a hole somewhere and be lost, but and the weather can be bad. But in general, it's such a safe place. A safe place to enjoy Reykjavik as a solo woman walking around at midnight. It's just a nice place to be both in nature and in the city. So no to worry about with that. And you don't need water shoes for the pools. Nobody really wears them. People wear flip-flops for the showers, but then no shoes inside the pools. And is there a place to do laundry? Let me think about this. Because it's changed on this tour. There is no place to do laundry actually. So if you want to bring, do some like quick dry like clothes and wash them in a sink, you can hang them up. But yeah, we're not in any spot long enough to do laundry. Usually the most we stay in a place is 2 nights, and then the others are 1 night. And so should we wait to buy our airline tickets till the trip is confirmed? I would. That's what I have to say. I almost bought my plane tickets yesterday, just so you know. But I can't say anything. I can't give you the green light and check boxes until I get those certain numbers ticked. Okay. So especially if you're coming in early and staying later, get a fully refundable ticket. It's always good to have that just in case. And you can never, if you have the ability to stay longer in Iceland, I highly recommend you do it. Reykjavik is a beautiful place to just base yourself. You could book your hotel using the same place we're staying at on night 1, which is Hotel Leif Erikson. And you could do whale watching from Reykjavik. There are museums, like really great museums. You could do food walking tours. There's so much to do there. You won't be bored. And delicious food. Oh, I didn't even talk about that. What do you eat in Iceland? Because I remember I thought, oh gosh, am I gonna be eating like putrid shark and fermented ray and whale? And the food is so fresh, delicious, and presented in a very beautiful way. Each meal feels really good, both for your body and just for the experience. And if you have, we can accommodate most dietary restrictions because you're ordering off a menu. Now, there are times when we go to, like, if we're staying out in the countryside, we'll go to, like, when we stay at the horse farm, we eat in Johanna's kitchen. And she does a buffet for all of us, and she presents her food. And she's just a cool Icelandic lady who started this farm, and her whole family runs it, right? So we'll give her your dietary restrictions, but there's always something to, like, for a vegan or for a vegetarian, or no fish or no lamb, there'd be something there. But if at that same location, just down the street, is Cast Guest House. And that's where we go we'll go to dinner there one night. And they might just have a set menu of 3 things. It could be like a fish. Usually it's Arctic char out in that way, Arctic char, salmon, lamb, and maybe chicken, and then a vegetarian option. Those are usually so you get to pick from that. It's not a whole like diner size menu. And one of the questions people ask too is like, why aren't the meals included? That's the same reason why the bus isn't included. Because why would I budget $75 or $80 per person and you eat a $25 soup that day, right? It's just so much easier to include a couple of meals, group meals, but then you order off the menu. And then once you're done with your food, you walk up to the register and you tell them what you ordered, and you pay with their credit card. That's it. There's no splitting checks. There's no worrying about the tip. It's all just done right there on site. And when you send money to me, I've got fees, there's all these extra things get added in money processing. This is a way for me to try to keep it economical, but also economical, and just give you the most choice. Because also with group menus is we're working with a group. So if there's one vegan in the group, maybe we're all eating vegan, right? So not that that's bad. I think, I'm just playing with you all. So it's just that we have to work with the group menu based on who's in the group. Let's see. Can we manage that? Yes, you can manage a dairy allergy. And a lot of where we don't have much control over things is usually the breakfast at hotels or guest houses. But I've seen so many places have almond milk now, and there's just alternatives to dairy, and everywhere that's definitely one that can be accommodated, is the dairy allergy for sure. And any basic those like gluten-free, vegetarian, dairy-free, those things are easy to accommodate. It's if I'm only a vegetarian and I have 3 vegetables I eat, then we've got problems, okay? Because maybe I don't eat tomatoes and I don't eat onions and I don't eat peppers. Well, that's what the vegetables are in Iceland. So that's when it becomes problematic, okay? If you're really, really specific. And not flexible. We've got lots of travelers who have dietary restrictions that are specific but flexible, and that's what we can work with. Reykjavik. You want me to spell hotel Leif Erikson? Okay, hotel, and I've been spelling Leif Erikson. There you go. It's like Eric the Red Sun, Leif Erikson. That's the hotel, and it's right across from a statue of Leif Erikson. Any other questions? Did you enjoy it? Did you learn something? I hope that you many of you are still here, so I didn't bore you. I remember I used to work for the Forest Service in Alaska, and I had to do a puppet show. I remember it was me and this other ranger, and we're behind the like behind the desk with our puppets in the air, and the room was full of kids, and we were like talking to our puppets, and I remember going, Veronica, I don't know if anybody's still out there. Peeked around, there was nobody there. It's crickets. So, but you're all still here, so that's good.
But you know what, Tara, it sounds so exciting.
Thank you. I love it.
It sounds really cool, and I'm really glad that I listened to it because it got me even more pumped too. So it's
Absolutely.
And you're putting face, you're putting a sound to the names too, and a place on the map, which is helpful. And in terms of you don't need to exchange money. It's best if you are cashless in Iceland. You don't have a credit, if you're going on this trip and you don't have a credit card that it doesn't have international fees, apply for one of those. That's what I would suggest you go to Iceland with. I'm somebody, and I travel a lot. I don't like to use my debit card in places. One, because I feel like it's a direct line to all my cash. That's that's so scary for me. And then also they usually charge like a transaction fee. So a credit card that doesn't have international transaction fees is the best way to go, because you're going to get the best rate at the time. Because what if you got your exchange? Iceland's currency is like the stock market. It goes like this, and it dips. It comes up and drops. It can happen quite quickly. And so, like, granted, right now is a good time. I guess if you wanted to buy some currency, right now is a good time to buy currency. But you could get stuck with currency in the summer, and the rate is a little bit, the exchange is a little bit not as good, and then you just return it. You're still losing money. I think for what you're doing for a week, just go and use your credit card. You're not spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in Iceland. And in terms of flights, after 4:30. So what you can arrive anytime on day one. Let me put it this way: from North America, arrive anytime, because I know North Americans arrive no later than 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. If you're deciding you're going to go to Europe and then come to Iceland, please be there by 3, because we have a meeting at 4, and then we have our group dinner. So I would like you to be there as a group to go over all that stuff. Okay. But when you leave on the last day, book your flights to be after 4:30. Usually they're 4:45, 5:30, 6. And that gives you time to go. We'll go to the Sky Lagoon, then we transfer to the airport, and airport drop off is about 1:30 or 1:45. I've seen people push their flights. They're like, oh, I'm leaving at 3:30. You really need, especially in the summer, you need 3 hours. Don't push it to a 2 hour unless you have a carry-on and you're like, you live by the seat of your pants. Oh, there you go. And there's, in terms of the tipping, so that we have a tip guideline of minimum of $250, and that is distributed on your behalf throughout the tour. We'll collect that on day 1, but there's no tipping at restaurants. We'll tip your guides. We'll tip and the service, like basically service people on the tour, but there's no tipping at restaurants. Okay. Any other questions? Well, I really appreciate you all coming tonight. And again, it's nice to see faces and to hear your questions. It gets me excited about it. And I know that, like I said, I was looking to book my flights the other day. So that's a good sign.
Good. Thank you.
You are so welcome.
Thanks,
I'll stick
Tara.
around if you have any other questions you want to address. Otherwise, you know how to find me. I'll see you in
Okay.
Iceland.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.